India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin at the most recent BRICS summit have signed a sweeping military deal, which is a win-win for both countries, depending on how long you want to look into the future. The four main parts of the deal are a win for India and a win for Russia, in the sense that both countries will be working to jointly develop future aircraft. India benefits from this because it gets access to Russian technologies that it would otherwise not be able to duplicate or even have any knowledge that they existed. Russian manufacturing expertise is far ahead of India's. India wins because it's able to create under its Make in India program, which Narendra Modi has championed since he's been Prime Minister. There will be thousands of jobs that will be created as a result of this joint military pact. Now, where the deal gets very interesting concerns India's purchase of what are going to be S-400 Russian-made anti-ballistic missile defense systems. These can be used for offensive purposes as well as defensive purposes. They are meant to go ahead and set up a zone of protection to protect India and its territory from any hostile invaders. Now, while the S-400 system is very formidable, it is a notable upgrade from its prior ancestor, the S-300. The problem with the S-400 system, as the United States and Israel have proven, is that it can be easily defeated. Put another way, the purchase by India of this system is not to go ahead and detour India's real enemy, which is communist China. Instead, it is meant to give Pakistan fits, since Pakistan is incapable of penetrating the radar defensive systems of the S-400. So in this sense, the purchase of the S-400 by India is a game changer. It further isolates Pakistan militarily and renders even more so Pakistan's conventional military as to being largely irrelevant. Pakistan could never defeat India in a conventional war. Indeed, the only way to beat India in a war against Pakistan, should Pakistan start one, would be to go nuclear, and then Pakistan would ultimately lose because its population is nowhere near that of India's, and it could not survive a nuclear strike or a nuclear counterstrike. And let's be honest, folks, nobody really wins in a nuclear exchange anyway. You might succeed in obliterating your opponent, but you can't control the winds, and the radioactivity and the fallout would cover much of the planet, depending on what Mother Nature wishes, not humans. Now back to the S-400 system. Daily World is going to show you some videos now, 2 of them, that have long been in the public domain. Unfortunately, the Indian media either is unaware of these or isn't going there and isn't discussing this. These videos prove quite easily and definitively just how easy it is to defeat the S-400 system. And while Pakistan has no capability to do so, so it's nice that India has weapons that Pakistan cannot defeat, you better bet that communist China has no such limitations. In fact, now that the communist Chinese have stolen the blueprints for the American F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and are due to deploy its copied knockoff next year as part of its military arsenal, you better believe that the methods that you are about to see and the techniques that are being used and exist in the American arsenal and the Israeli arsenal are also being developed by communist China, which will render the use of the S-400 as being largely academic or outright useless against the Chinese military should it try to attack or invade or harm India. So let's roll the video now. The 2 tapes speak for themselves.
DARPA is developing technologies that would enable future U.S. warfighters to take advantage of complex networks of weapons systems to operate more effectively in contested environments. This system of systems strategy aims to enhance mission effectiveness and decrease risk to U.S. pilots while imposing asymmetric costs upon adversaries. The approach also makes it possible to rapidly upgrade mission systems and ensure use of the most up-to-date software and hardware. In this scenario, a United States fighter begins to close on an enemy-integrated air defense site to punch a hole through the adversary's defenses and create a corridor of safe access for U.S. strike forces. The fighter is accompanied to the rear by a specially designed mission truck perhaps akin to a modified C-130. This mission truck has the ability to deploy a wide variety of easily upgraded low-cost weapons, including recoverable unmanned aircraft systems or UAS platforms. While staying well outside enemy engagement ranges, the truck greatly expands mission capability and the fighter's virtual payload capacity. As the fighter approaches the attack range of the air defense missiles, a command is sent to the mission truck to deploy a number of UASs with passive sensors and jam-resistant communications. They are commanded from the fighter, but the pilot is relieved of control burdens through the use of advanced distributed battle management aids, making it as easy to coordinate UAS activities as it would be to communicate with fellow wingmen. The presence of the U.S. forces draws the attention of the air defense site's target engagement radar. The UASs close within the threat range of the site's missiles and use their passive sensors to detect and localize the enemy target engagement radars. At the same time, they begin cooperative jamming of the radar to enhance their own survivability. The data they collect are transmitted back to the fighter, which fuses the information with data from its very own capable sensors to create a targeting solution against the enemy radar. The fighter pilot designates the enemy radar for weapons engagement. The battle management system generates an optimal solution for the UASs to perform cooperative radar sensing with the fighter. Their proximity and spatial distribution provides high-quality targeting data while allowing the fighter to maximize its own survivability. The distributed radars collect imagery sufficient to confirm positive combat identification of the enemy radar and provide precise targeting coordinates, but the fighter pilot must look at the images to make the final decision to strike. To avoid the challenge of data overload on the comms link between the UASs and the fighter, advanced automatic target recognition software on each UAS identifies the target and transmits just a limited amount of the imagery around this point to allow the fighter pilot to make the final engagement decision. Once the decision to engage has been made, the pilot sends a command to the mission truck to attack. The planning of the engagement, selection, and programming of weapons and generation of a targeted solution is again conducted with minimal pilot burden using the Advanced Battle Management System. The mission truck launches a swarm of small, low-cost cruise missiles, or LCCMs, that speed toward the enemy radar target. While each missile has a relatively small warhead, collectively they can have a tremendous impact. As the LCCMs close on the enemy radar, the adversary launches a counterstrike of surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs, in waves. Many of the LCCMs can be expected to be destroyed, but in doing so, the adversary expends many expensive long-range SAMs at a significant cost disadvantage. In the end, several LCCMs make it through the onslaught and, guided by low-cost precision seekers, destroy the enemy radar, neutralizing the enemy air defenses along that corridor. Under the system of systems focus, STO has awarded contracts to develop concepts, architectures, and tools to facilitate rapid integration and testing of new capabilities for national defense.
For over 50 years, the United States and coalition partners have projected military power at will anywhere in the world to deter and dissuade our adversaries. However, rapid advancement in anti-access and area denial capabilities has altered the battlespace calculus dramatically, increasing the adversary's abilities to disrupt our strategic options. Raytheon's collaborative team of the Miniature Air Launch Decoy, or MALD, Joint Standoff Weapon, or JSOW, and High-Speed Anti-Radiation Missile, or HARM, is a proven, affordable response to the proliferation of A2AD enablers. MALD, JSOW, and HARM complement each other's attributes, providing synergy to disrupt and overwhelm an advanced adversary across multiple domains while protecting launch platforms. MALDs initially stimulate the air defenses, revealing enemy radar and launcher positions, making them vulnerable to HARM and JSOW precision targeting. MALD is a low-cost modular system with an electronics package that simulates the flight profiles and signatures of friendly aircraft. Simulations have shown aircraft survivability is significantly enhanced when MALDs are deployed. MALD-J adds radar jamming capability to the basic MALD platform and can suppress enemy air defenses in a preemptive or reactive mode. MALD can be launched from fighters, bombers, or en masse from non-traditional launch platforms to saturate even the most advanced air defense systems. JSOW is a modular combat-proven weapon, providing affordable adverse weather, day-night precision strike standoff. JSOW is an integrated GPS INS guided glide weapon designed to attack virtually the entire target set. Launch aircraft can employ outside enemy air defenses, and its low radar cross-section and infrared signature ensure survivability against heavily defended targets. JSOW-C introduced an imaging infrared seeker for precise targeting and a versatile aim point selection that enables a cave defeat capability. C1 adds a moving maritime target capability and the two-way strike common weapon data link for the world's first network-enabled weapon. A powered JSOW has been demonstrated, extending the range to over 250 nautical miles, while providing a low-cost investment for near-term long-range precision strike. HARM is combat-proven and designed to home in on and destroy radar systems. HARM provides standoff and real-time targeting capability. Its specially designed warhead with selectable impact or height of burst fusing provides destruction of enemy air defenses against land and maritime targets, neutralizing the threat for follow-on aircraft. HARM's Controlled Section Modification, or HCSM, preserves the HARM's anti-radiation homing strengths and adds improved versatility through GPS INS integration. HCSM provides supersonic precision strike against complex radiating or non-radiating targets and known location time-sensitive targets. HCSM reduces risk of fratricide and collateral damage through programmable missile impact and exclusion zones. With HCSM, analysis shows HARM effectiveness increases 4-to-1 against advanced SAMs. The following notional scenario depicts the collaborative team in action. Against an advanced adversary in contested air and maritime domains, strike aircraft launch from permissive locations. ISR platforms are positioned at the edge of the threat defenses to provide real-time targeting data and threat updates. Dismantling of the air defenses begins with the MALDs and MALD-Js launched as the first wave of the attack. Formations of MALDs execute tactics to stimulate the air defenses, allowing detection, classification, and targeting of the threats. JSOWs now target critical threats and pre-planned targets, and HARMs attack air defense radar nodes with supersonic precision. MALDs divert the enemy response away from the main attack axis and deplete air defense munitions. With the advanced air defense threat degraded, previously vulnerable strike aircraft are now able to conduct offensive operations with impunity. Should deterrence fail, the collaborative team of MALD, JSOW, and HARM enables the Joint Force Commander to apply military force where and when it is needed, with the freedom of action to get the mission done. MALD, JSOW, and HARM, creating the fog of war.
As the two videos have just shown, and they've been in public domain for quite a while now, the S-400 can be defeated by a variety of methods. These are just two of them. So if a war were to ever break out between India and China, God forbid, the Chinese could easily defeat the system. Instead, the S-400 system benefit comes with trying to deter Pakistan, since Pakistan is nothing even close to being able to defeat the S-400, and they have no equivalent of the S-400 system. Now, while the Russians are selling the S-300 and 400 on the market, what's happening is the Russians are getting ready to deploy the S-500. The S-500 is much more formidable than the 3 and 400. It's going to form the mainstay of the defensive systems that Russia is rolling out as part of its new across-the-board upgrade. It will be deployed specifically around Moscow and some of the other command center areas that need to survive in case there ever is a conflict. Now, what makes the S-500 rather interesting is that it can fire missiles at a height of 660,000 feet. Again, that's essentially in outer space. It can also use kinetic weapons, and it is meant to take out kinetic weapons that might be launched against it. So unlike the S-300 S-300 and the S-400. The 500 is a game changer. It is an integrated radar defense system that incorporates the earlier versions of the S defense system, which is the 300 and 400 models, and it is a huge upgrade that is capable of firing within seconds, about half the time that it takes the current S4 system to fire and deploy, and it is a huge upgrade compared to the 300 or the 400. The Russians are not going to sell this system for the foreseeable future to anybody else but themselves, of course. In the meantime, they're going to give countries like India their old technology, which is the S-300 and even the S-400. So to be extremely blunt about this issue, India is buying essentially yesterday's technology for tomorrow's world. That's not going to work in any conflict against communist China, but while it will be effective against Pakistan, Pakistan is not India's vital threat or enemy. China is. Hopefully, India's leadership is going to consider this and other issues going forward, because the United States, Russia, and China, and Israel are all in the process of deploying next-generation weapons, which make today's weaponry irrelevant and obsolete. India has a severe challenge ahead of it in that it must prepare for the present and near-term future, as well as the long-term future, as much as anybody can see it going forward for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. That's going to be very expensive, and India, of the major countries, is way behind compared to China, compared to Russia, and especially the United States and Israel.